Hey everyone, my name is Mrs. Pingle and this is Art at Home. This channel is going to be dedicated to art and art history, and I'm hoping that it'll be helpful for anyone who's trying to learn art from home. One of the most important things about learning to draw things realistically is understanding how light interacts with the things around us and knowing how to replicate that in your drawing. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to draw a sphere in full value. So let's dive into it. Alright, so I did have a bit of news I wanted to share with you guys before we get started with this sketch. I recently got married in June of 2020, so my name is Mrs. Pingle now, but if you had me as a student and you knew me as Miss Best, then that's okay to call me that if you prefer, but I'll be introducing myself as Mrs. Pingle from now on. So I'm going to go ahead and get these out of the way and flip open to my next blank page. Here is my reference image that I have pulled up in front of me on my laptop. It's just a grayscale sphere, and I'm gonna get started by grabbing my B pencil. In my last video, I talked a little bit about the different pencil codes, but just as a reminder, B is on the darker end of the graphite spectrum, but an HB pencil is more in the middle, and I'll grab those just to show you. The HB that you see on a graphite pencil is the exact same as the HB on a number 2 pencil, and the reason that I'm not starting with that this time is because HB is a little bit light as far as filming purposes go, so I'm going to get started with my B pencil. Step 1 is to draw a circle, and I like to try to use my whole arm but keep my hand steady. That way you get something that's more in control. And it's still not perfect, so I'm going to draw right over top of those imperfections rather than erasing them first. That way I don't make the same mistake again. Step 2 is to draw the horizon line behind the circle. You can think of this as the edge of the table that it's sitting on or where the sky meets the ground. Next, I'm going to draw just the outline of the cast shadow that the sphere is literally casting across the surface that it's sitting on. I'm not going to draw too many more lines, but the lines that I am going to draw are just soft contour lines that are helping me to place the differences in light and shadow that I see, and they're kind of these stretched out rounded triangle shapes, so I'm just adding in outlines there so that I know about where they'll go when I start to shade, which is what I'm going to start here. When you're shading, especially for a sphere, it's very important to try to draw your lines in your fields of value as curved lines. Don't do horizontal or diagonal lines because those are all straight lines, and for a sphere to have that rounded effect, it's really important to contour it or to use curved lines when you're doing your fields of value. So now I have my highlight and my light areas done, and I've tried my best to make sure that there's no stripy distinctions between those two values, but I am going to start pressing just a little bit darker to start adding in that first shadowed area. I could change my pencils for this and use a darker pencil, but I just wanted to show you that you can get quite a range of value from just one pencil depending on how hard you press on it. So I am going to go ahead and grab a darker pencil now. This is my 5B pencil, and as you can see, it's quite short because of how soft the graphite is. In fact, this is my 6B pencil, and I keep it because it's just funny to me now that you can't even see the code because I've used so much of the pencil, but I'm going to use my 5B just because that's almost as dark, and this area right here is the darkest that I see on the sphere itself, so I'm going to make sure that I'm using a darker pencil and a light pressure before I start gradually adding more and more pressure. Now I'm going to start shading in that cast shadow, and I'm going to press hard because this is the darkest value that I see so far. Cast shadows are important if you're trying to get an object to look realistic, because if they're sitting on a surface, it will always cast some sort of shadow across the surface. So pay attention to the shape of the shadow, the length of the shadow, and the value of the shadow in order to make it look good. This next part I'm adding is a really thin, stretched out, but very dark part of the shadow directly underneath the sphere. This is known as the core shadow. Whenever you have something directly on top of something else, it creates a really dark area known as the core shadow where almost no light is touching. One thing to watch out for with graphite is placing your knuckles down on top of it, because you will get some smudges that way, and it's fine. I'm going to cover that all up later, but just be aware of it, especially when you're using the B pencils. Next, I'm going to grab my STAEDTLER eraser pen, which retracts. The reason it does that is to help keep the white Mars plastic eraser clean, because if it's clean, it erases better. And I'm just going to go through and soften up any edges and make sure everything is well blended. Alright, now that everything is shaded, I'm going to go through and label all the different aspects of light that I have used. The brightest spot on any given object is known as the highlight. Anything that sticks out toward the light is going to get a highlight on it, and it always indicates the direction of the light source. This next aspect of light is one that not every art teacher is going to teach you, but I wanted to throw it in here just because. This is known as just normal light. It's not a highlight, but it's also not a midtone. It's an area in between, and sometimes it can be hard to distinguish, but if you squint your eyes, it will become a little more clear which is the highlight, which is the light, and which is the slightly darker midtone, which is right here. The next area I want to point out is the shadow, but it's the shadow that's on the object itself. It's on the opposite side of the highlight, and it just helps give more dimension to have that there. The core shadow is the part of the shadow, sometimes on the object or directly underneath it, that's the deepest, darkest part of the shadow. This lighter crescent moon-shaped area underneath the sphere is what we call reflected light. And the reason that we call it that is because it's a result of the light coming down from the light source, bouncing up off of the surface that the sphere is sitting on, and creating a reflection on the bottom of it. The last aspect of light that I'm going to label is the cast shadow. And that's it. A sphere is pretty easy to draw, but it's important because it teaches you how light behaves. If you can apply these rules to a new object, you can draw just about anything. That's all we have for today's video, everybody. Please be sure to like this video if you liked the video, and subscribe to this channel for more videos just like this. And until next time, bye guys.